never said I oppose fracking. Show the tape. Put it on your website. Put it on the website.
Live from Clark Studios in Rochester, New York. Broadcasting around the world. You're listening to You Made It Political, where the voice of the keyboard warrior is finally heard and the arguments presented are put to the political test. And now, here's your host, Matt Clark.
We all know the impeachment hoax, sponsored by the Democrats, is nothing more than a dog and pony show to help the left feel satisfied that something is actually going to be done for the Capitol building riots on January 6th. I mean, come on. The entire thing is as unconstitutional as Jack Dorsey from Twitter kicking President Trump off of Twitter 2 weeks ago. But then again, the Democrats don't really follow the Constitution, do they? Unless, of course, it suits their agenda. Listen, at the end of the day, this impeachment has absolutely nothing will come of it. The Democrats and Republicans are going to show up, do a little dance on the Senate floor, vote to acquit Donald Trump, shake hands, and head home, leaving the left in tears once again that Trump got off scot-free, and rightly so. How am I so sure? Well, the fact that only 5 Republicans, or should I say closet Democrats, supported Senator Paul Rand's motion to move forward with the trial just goes to show that this whole thing is dead on arrival before it even hits the Senate floor. Let's get into the show and I'll explain more. So as you can see here on Fox News, Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky, Republican senator, declared former President Trump's Senate impeachment trial dead on arrival on Tuesday after 45 Senate Republicans voted against holding the proceeding, viewing it as unconstitutional. Now, this is whole Rand Paul's thing. It's all about the impeachment trial being unconstitutional. So what did he decide to do? He decided to pull up the Senate and say, listen, this is not constitutional what we're doing here. It's unconstitutional, and I want to vote to squash this impeachment. I want to vote to kill it. So he puts it to the Senate floor. Very smart what Senator Paul Rand did. He did it to gauge interest as to whether enough Republicans really would come forward and vote in favor to convict Donald Trump. So it was a very smart move. He used the Constitution as a way to raise the vote, but we all know really he was trying to gauge interest from other colleagues, Republicans, to find out whether they were actually going to vote to convict Trump come time for that vote. So what happens exactly here? Well, shortly after senators, and this is referring to the new senators, we have to remember here, a whole bunch of new senators were just voted in. So they were voted in recently. You've got a whole bunch of new guys on the floor. Paul Rand wants to gauge their interest. So shortly after senators were sworn in for that trial, okay, they all had to be sworn in for the impeachment trial, Paul requested a vote on the constitutionality of impeaching a former president, something many GOP lawmakers have questioned. Remember, the Constitution says, and it's very clear, impeachment is for a sitting president. It says nothing about a president who has already left office, who would be considered a former president. So the Constitution makes it very clear. Impeachment is for a president of the United States. Donald Trump is no longer the president of the United States. It is a gray area at best. So GOP lawmakers have rightly so been questioning whether this whole impeachment situation was even constitutional in the first place. So his motion was quickly tabled, but the vote to dismiss was still very revealing. So while the Senate wound up voting to table or kill Paul's motion rather than vote directly on it. What this did is it broke down the vote, and ultimately it forced 5 Republicans. It forced the hands of those who may actually still vote against or for this impeachment. So in order for Donald Trump to actually be convicted, we need a 2/3 vote from the Senate floor. That's what we need. We need 2/3 majority vote. That means all Democrats would have to vote to impeach Trump, plus 17 Republicans. So all the Democrats plus 17 Republicans. Well, what happened yesterday? 5 voted, 5 Republicans, or as I like to refer them as rhinos, backed the tabling the motion. So these 5 Republicans, surprise, surprise, Senator Mitt Romney of Utah, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Ben Sasse, and Pat Toomey. So there are your 5 closet Democrats, your 5 rhinos who are all in favor of actually impeaching Donald Trump. They need 17. Nothing's going to come from this situation. So it forced the hands. It allowed us to see what chance do we really have here. Are we going to come anywhere even near as close to 17? Well, no, we didn't, because only 5 Republicans actually voted alongside the Democrats to impeach Donald Trump. So Paul wanted to hold this vote to demonstrate how many Republicans opposed the trial, and to make a point about how Trump's conviction would be unlikely without their support. The implication is that if 45 Republicans were going to vote on the constitutionality of the trial, they probably wouldn't be voting to convict Trump. So you have to remember, what did they vote for again last night on the Senate floor? They voted for who thinks that this impeachment follows the Constitution. Okay, who actually thinks it follows the Constitution? That's what he was putting to the Senate floor. Well, all but 5 Republicans say this is constitutional, and of course all the Democrats say it's constitutional. But just how, what I said earlier, the Democrats don't seem to really be following the Constitution at all these days. So the entire Democratic Party said this is constitutional. 5 Republicans said this is constitutional. The remaining did not. They needed 17. So if all of these Republicans have already voted saying this is unconstitutional what we're doing, then of course they're not going to vote to convict Trump during the trial. So the whole thing is completely dead on arrival before it even meets the Senate floor. Let's go over to the keyboard warrior cam and see what the American people have to say about the insanity of the impeachment hoax and just how clever Rand Paul's constitutional vote was last night. So, Rand Paul calls Trump's impeachment trial dead on arrival after 45 GOP senators vote against it. Sorry, I made a mistake earlier. There are 50 Republican senators, 5 voted against it, or 5 voted for impeachment. The other 45 voted against it. What do the American people have to say about such insanity and the hypocrisy and the double standard of what's going on here during this impeachment? Louis says it's a big waste of our tax dollars. Absolutely. Who do you think pays for this stuff? The taxpayers. We have to remember, the last impeachment, the whole Russian hoax situation, the Ukraine impeachment, lasted 85 days. That is a tremendous amount of taxpayer dollars going to this trial. So once again, we now have to suffer and pay for a trial that isn't even constitutional in the first place. But they're still going to have it because the Democrats would rather try to save face and drag all of us over the coals over it than admit they don't really have a real case here. So they're going to do what they do once again, drag America down through what could possibly be months of hell and millions of dollars for a case that they don't even stand a leg to win. Gisela says, thank you, Senator Paul. I just wish those 5 would look at the facts of the matter. So sad they call themselves Republicans. Why do they hate our country? We all need to work with and back people like yourself. I'm so sorry that you endured some harm a few times in the last few years. I thank you for standing strong. God bless you and your family. Remember, there's 2 situations here. First of all, what did Trump actually do? Trump didn't do anything. So the fact that we're even having this impeachment trial is a joke in itself. So not only did Trump not incite violence, but he also isn't the president of the United States anymore during a trial that's only supposed to be had while he's in office. And the fact that Justice Roberts isn't even presiding over this just goes to show it doesn't follow the Constitution. Constitutionally, a Supreme Court justice is supposed to preside over an impeachment trial, just like he did before. But notice, for those of you who've been following this case, Justice Roberts is not residing over this trial. Why? Because Trump is not actually a president. Therefore, he doesn't need to be involved. Well, if he's not president and the Constitution says that a president needs to be in office to be convicted, then why are we even going through this whole thing? So we all know the whole thing's a complete joke. So Chief Justice Roberts is not presiding over it. Why are 45 Republicans dead set against this impeachment? Okay, it's because they know there was no real insurrection. Don't you think if there was really an insurrection, let's think about this for a second. If an insurrection really occurred where a group of extremists tried to overtake the government or tried to disrupt their active business that day, tried to overturn an election, do you really think a single Republican or any politician for that matter would back Trump? Do you really think that would happen? Our government, would they ever back somebody who legitimately felt an insurrection occurred here, or that a president incited or provoked or promoted an insurrection? I don't think so. I don't think a single Republican would have ever voted against the impeachment. Hence the reason they're all for it, because they know this wasn't an insurrection. They know Donald Trump didn't even incite any violence at all. And they know double standards exist. We have to remember, the left, during the BLM movements, the entire summer long, were inciting violence. And the left knows it, which is why the whole thing is a joke and it's not going to go anywhere. They're all in it together, the Republicans and the Democrats. It's all a dog and pony show to make you, the viewers at home, feel like justice is at least being attempted to prevail. We know, according to the left, justice is not going to prevail because Trump's not going to be impeached. But they want to put on an act so you all think that something's actually being done here. Nothing's going to be done. The only thing that's going to be done is we're going to give false hope to those who honestly and genuinely believe that Trump did anything wrong, and we're going to all waste millions of dollars with this impeachment hoax. And even worse, there's going to be no unity of this. Joe Biden keeps calling for unity. He says he's going to be the people's president. So why isn't he telling Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer to drop this nonsense? If they really want unity, if all Democrats really want unity, then why are we starting off Biden's election with an impeachment that is not only unconstitutional, but accuses a man of something that he didn't even do in the first place? So the whole thing is nonsense. There's double standards across the board. Democrats and Republicans know this thing is a joke. Paul Rand just confirmed yesterday and ousted 5 Republicans, rhinos, who are siding with the Democrats. If anything, the only thing we learned from them from yesterday's vote is who not to vote for in the 2022 primaries, or whoever is at least up for election. So let's take a look at the keyboard warrior cam and see what the American people have to say about the insanity of the impeachment hoax. Daisy says, to all 45 Republican senators, and especially Senator Rand Paul, we are grateful for your vote and courage to uphold the law and justice. Thank you. At least somebody is following the Constitution here. There hasn't been a lot of that lately, has there? But at least 45 Republicans still have our back. At least they are still willing to fight for and defend our constitutional rights. This trial by the Dems, says Tammy, is just a distraction to what is going on behind the scenes. Rand Paul knows the Constitution and he is correct. Why are we even arguing this fact? Why are we even discussing whether this impeachment is constitutional or not? It makes it very clear in the Constitution that impeachment is for a sitting president. There's no ifs, and or buts about it. But of course, you have Democratic politicians and Democratic constitutional scholars claiming that, well, it doesn't actually say anything about what if they're out of office. So you better believe they're jumping all over that one, especially Chuck Schumer. Let's take a look at what Chuck Schumer's had to say about the situation and how he's getting away with siding on the side that this is within the legal realms of the Constitution. Senator Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat from New York, argued that Paul's assessment of the situation was flat out wrong. Okay, so here we have Chuck Schumer now telling us we're all wrong about the Constitution. Because remember, the Democrats, for some reason, seem to think that they get to pick and choose what part of the Constitution they abide by and what parts they throw out the window. So here we got Chuck Schumer now telling us that Paul Rand's assessment of the situation was flat out wrong, claiming it had already been completely debunked by constitutional scholars all across the political spectrum, which is a complete lie. He's claiming here that all constitutional scholars in the United States have debunked this theory. That's just nonsense. It's straight up a lie. They have not all debunked the situation. As a matter of fact, there are probably more constitutional scholars, from what I've read at least, that have said this impeachment is completely and 100% unconstitutional. So, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says, no, constitutional scholars have said this is completely fair game. Article 1, Section 3 of the Constitution states that officials can be barred from holding office ever again through impeachment. First of all, he's contradicting himself right here in this single paragraph itself. Article 1, Section 3 of the Constitution states that officials, he's not an official anymore. President Trump is no longer president. Former President Trump is no longer the president of the United States. Therefore, he is not an official. And according to Chuck Schumer, he just contradicted himself. Article 1, Section 3 of the Constitution states that officials can be barred from holding office ever again through impeachment. He's not an official. This is not constitutional. And Chuck Schumer's wrong again here, because even if Trump got convicted, even if he was convicted, that does not guarantee he cannot run again. A separate trial or a separate vote would need to be had to bar him from ever running again. Now, in that vote, only a minority vote would need to pass. So Chuck Schumer is just kind of lying through his teeth, saying whatever he wants to say, hoping that people like you and me don't take it upon ourselves to research the truth here. But the fact of the matter is that You cannot try a non-president for impeachment because he no longer is an official. And the fact that Chuck Schumer said that all constitutional scholars across the entire potential or political spectrum have said that you can is a complete lie in itself. You don't even need to go do the research to know that that is just straight up a lie. You can't tell me that you possibly agree with the fact that Chuck's right on this, knowing or believing that every single constitutional scholar in the entire United States has debunked this situation. So we got Chuck Schumer once again out there with Nancy Pelosi, pushing their narrative, lying to the American people, giving false hope to the Democrats that something's actually going to be done here, when we all know it's not. It's not constitutional. And even though we've seemed to throw the Constitution out the window on this one, there's no way the Senate's going to get a 2/3 majority vote here. Because, as we know, we need 17 Republicans plus all the Democrats to make 2/3. Right now, they only have 5 Republicans. Dead on arrival, never going to happen. Karen says, good. We do not need another sideshow. They should consider impeaching Pelosi for trying to remove the president without the Congress having a vote before she tried. She represents one district, not all of them. Where was the due process throughout all of this? How is this even happening? They have completely thrown the Constitution out the window. They have completely thrown the entire due process out the window. They're supposed to have a chain of events, a series of events that lead up to this point today. They have not had any of that. There have been no votes leading up to it. They rushed this immediately to vote for impeachment. Nancy Pelosi only represents one district. She's absolutely right. She should be impeached for failing to abide to the Constitution. Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, Cory Booker, Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, they should all be impeached as well for actually inciting violence during the BLM and Antifa movements over the summer. They actually told their followers to commit acts of violence. They told people to get up in their face. They told people to go to the streets, to raise hell. They actually instigated hate. They actually promoted and provoked violent acts, which we all saw for ourselves, that continue to go on today. Antifa is still rioting across the United States. Even after Biden becomes president, they're still at it. The only difference is now they can't get them to stop. Judy says, thank you, Rand Paul, for having the guts to speak out for what you think was the right thing to do. Praying for the other 5 Republicans to join the rest of you, 45 in the impeachment trial. God bless you. This is how ridiculous. Let me tell you how ridiculous this whole thing is. President Biden doesn't even think the impeachment's going to happen. I mean, we've got Biden now, President of the United States. He's such a buzzkill, Biden. Biden's like the biggest buzzkill on both sides. He can't even get his own party riled up. He's just admitted right here, Biden says the impeachment trial has to happen, but Trump probably won't be convicted. Oh, that's real motivating. That's a great way to get your party all fired up for an impeachment. The president of the United States is telling the Democratic Party, you know what, this whole thing kind of is a joke. Let's go through the motions. Let's just make the American people happy and feel like we're actually doing something. But you guys, I don't think anything's going to happen. So President Biden, impeachment trial has to happen, but he doesn't think anything's going to come of it. Let's take a look at the article and see exactly what he said. So during a brief interview with CNN, Biden's comments were the most extensive. I love this. He's been totally silent on the situation, and rightly so. You have to remember, before I go into this real quick, why has Biden been silent on this situation? He's been silent because he knows Hunter Biden's deal is not over yet. We still want to see what was on that laptop. We want to know what happened with his business dealings. Joe Biden is connected with Hunter Biden. There's no doubt about that. And they need to be questioned, interrogated. They are not above the law. And we need to get to the bottom of what happened amongst Joe Biden and Hunter Biden's business dealings. And President Biden knows that. They know that after this impeachment, they're coming for Joe next. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if this whole thing, this entire impeachment hoax, is just a distraction to hope that we all forget about Hunter Biden. We haven't forgotten. The media hasn't forgotten. The impeachment might take the front seat, but you better believe once this thing's over, we're going straight back to Hunter's laptop, and Joe knows it. Therefore, he's been very silent on the situation. He hasn't wanted to really say too much, because if he doesn't say much, his silence is almost an endorsement of almost agreeing with the fact that we should drop this impeachment. Therefore, he's winning. He's already got the Democrats on his side, like the Democrats are going to go up against a Democratic president. But what he's trying to do here is win over his Republican counterparts. So the more Republicans that side with Joe in the future, the better it is for his own future interrogation, or at the very least, Hunter's interrogation. So Joe Biden needs to be very careful with how he plays this impeachment. And when he didn't come out and really say much about it, I wasn't surprised. I thought it was a very smart play by Biden. Unfortunately, Biden doesn't call the shots in Washington. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer do. Biden is just a puppet president. So Biden says, during a brief interview with CNN, Biden's comments were the most extensive he had made about the impeachment trial since taking office on Wednesday. Although acknowledging the potential negative effect of a trial on his legislative agenda and cabinet nominees, Biden said there would be a worse effect if it didn't happen. Do you see this? It's all show. A worse effect if it didn't happen. Again, he just admitted, listen, if we don't do it, it's going to really piss off a lot of Democrats. It's going to really infuriate the left. So we kind of got to do it just to put on a show. Well, how upset are the left going to be when Donald Trump is acquitted? We all know he's going to be. But how much more upset are they going to be when it actually happens? I mean, there's people out there who swear by the fact that Donald Trump's going to get convicted and he's never going to be able to run for office again. And all you have to do is open up a Google search and take a look at 5 seconds of anything on the internet to know that this thing's not going to go down. But you have a lot of Democrats out there who actually think there's a very good chance of this happening. They don't do their own research. They don't understand that a 2/3 majority vote's needed, and they don't understand that a vote just happened last night to pretty much prove that it's not going to happen. But they don't want to look at all that. They just want to scream impeachment, orange man, bad. So Biden right here just admitted, listen, nothing's going to happen. He's not going to get it. He's not going to get convicted, but I think we'd all be worse off if we didn't go through the motions. Biden in a West Wing hallway said he did not think, here's Biden right here admitting it, Biden did not think 17 Republican senators would vote to convict Trump. He added the outcome would be different if his predecessor had 6 months remaining in his term. What a joke. He actually, okay, so this is Biden now trying to justify his responses. What he's really saying, what he's trying to say here is, well, I think he'd be convicted if he had more time, but I think we're going to let him off the hook because he's already out of office. No, that's not how it works. If the Democrats want to never be able, or for Trump to never be able to have a chance again, they don't care if he's got 1 day, 6 months, if he's out of office already. You better believe they are going to vote everything with all their power to make sure he never is able to run again. So no, I don't believe Biden when he says, I think things would be different if Trump had 6 months remaining in his term. No, that's not the case at all. So Biden's trying to make excuses for how everybody's going to vote right now, based on a trial that he knows shouldn't really be going on, but he's holding to save face so the left don't have an absolute mental breakdown if they did nothing at all. They're already going to have a breakdown, let's be honest. I mean, I can't wait to see the memes and the anxiety levels go through the roof when this whole thing is thrown out the window with a Donald Trump acquittal, because it's going to happen. We all know it. Let's go back to the keyboard warrior cam right now and see what the American people have to say about Biden's remarks on just how much of a waste of time Biden even thinks this impeachment is. Sherry says, no, it did not, does not, should not have to happen. Ridiculous waste of time, energy, and taxpayers' money. Stephanie says, our federal government has only those powers enumerated in the Constitution. It does not have the power to impeach a former president. Why do I feel like every American on planet Earth knows the Constitution better than our politicians? I mean, listen, I don't have to be a constitutional scholar to know what my constitutional rights are. It's very clear. Our founding fathers wrote it there for us to read. It's very black and white. Why do we need constitutional scholars to interpret a constitution that I can read myself? It's like a set of laws. Laws are pretty simple to read. It's not meant to be up for interpretation. If you noticed, the right, conservatives, we just follow what's there. We don't really challenge it. We don't really try to manipulate it or twist it. But the left, they're constantly telling us what the Constitution really meant, or what our founding fathers really meant about the right to bear arms. No, it's pretty clear. The right to bear arms is to overtake you if you get out of line. And I have the right to have a bazooka to do that if I want to. It is not your right to tell me what weapon I use to overtake a tyrant governor. It's very simple. I have the right to bear arms. Whether that's a tank, a bazooka, or a little handgun, that's my right. But they like to twist and manipulate what the Constitution really says. Not their call. And I think we're finding out now that not only do many of the American people know and will defend it, but Republicans are stepping up now and saying, enough of this. It's not up to you to decide. This is what the Constitution means. And it's very black and white. Donna says, this statement in itself, the statement she's referring to is the fact that Biden has come out and says, we're going to have the trial, but don't expect much from it. Donna says, this statement in itself is so sad. Let's do an impeachment trial, even though we don't think he will be convicted. Waste tax money on something that won't happen. Totally crazy. But so far, he is proving how he is as a president. So it isn't really shocking. I mean, this is Joe for you. Sleepy Joe. It's like, come on, let's go through the motions. I'm tired. I got to get to bed. It's 8 o'clock. I don't really have the energy for this. Just send me an email in the morning. Let me know what happens. Hopefully Antifa won't light America on fire once he's acquitted. But we'll tackle that then, as we do everything. Kim says it won't happen because he didn't incite the riot. Very simple. The FBI says it was pre-planned. Interesting. You don't see that on left-wing media. And this isn't the first time I've heard this comment, even though Kim's reminding me. FBI has an avalanche of information, conversations in chat groups, social media platforms of groups getting together and pre-planning this thing. So it's not like they all took their cue when Trump said, let's go march down to the Capitol peacefully. to tell them what we think. It was pre-planned. If it was pre-planned, unless Trump was part of those plans, unless he was in those chat groups leading away an insurrection, which we all know he was not, then he wasn't a part of it. When they got inside, they were handed baseball bats. She's referring to what happened when they got inside of the Capitol building. I can't really comment on that. I don't know much about it. I don't know the truth in that. But I do know that the FBI said it was pre-planned, and there's a lot of evidence of that. So why aren't we using that evidence? Why has that evidence not squashed this impeachment from moving forward? It's unconstitutional. He didn't incite violence or a riot. He didn't incite an insurrection. There's not much that actually proves any reason to be going to trial. We didn't even follow due process. They rushed us into this, and now we have to sit here and watch the hoax unfold before our eyes that will amount to absolutely nothing. Did anyone think about a recall for Biden? Says John, you can see his plans on destroying America. On his first day in office, he eliminated thousands of American jobs. Now he plans on replacing all government cars with electric cars. This alone would put hundreds of thousands of Americans out of work right down the line. The socialist Democrats do not have your best interest at heart. They are here to destroy the America that our founding fathers made for us. It's very clear since Biden took over and basically undid everything that Trump put in place. We are no longer an America first country. We are an America last country. All the executive orders that Biden continues to sign, he broke a world record, by the way, or a nationwide record, the most executive orders ever in week one. That, to me, does not scream unity. Coming in, guns blazing, undoing all of Trump's America First policies does not scream unity to me. That, to me, sounds like someone who's disgruntled, who's thinking irrationally, who's thinking emotionally, who's not truly putting America first. Now, if he's got a personal vendetta out for the guy, take it up with Trump personally. But why are you dragging 390 million Americans into your personal fight? Same goes for Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer. This is a personal vendetta against Trump that the American people are now getting dragged into. The hoax, the impeachment hoax, is just another one of these BS situations that are going to bring us all down. It's another talking point for Republicans and Democrats to fight over because of personal issues that a few politicians have with Donald Trump. The American people are going to suffer because of it. Lori says, so waste even more money, further divide, all for nothing. Sounds like a great leadership skills. Absolutely. It's horrible. Biden should have come out and condemned this impeachment. He should have said it's not right. Nancy, Chuck, let it go. We didn't even follow the law leading up to the impeachment. We totally sidelined that one. People know it. They're pissed off even more. We're supposed to be uniting the people. Yet every decision we do, everything we're doing here in our first week is completely tearing America apart even further. Between the executive orders, the impeachment, the tens of thousands of jobs that he's just destroyed, going back into the Paris deal, which is going to cost America hundreds of millions of more dollars, selling out to China. The whole thing puts America last. This impeachment is just another thing that's going to further divide this country. We're going to continue to argue over it. When does the unifying begin? I'm still trying to figure that out, because Biden winning president definitely isn't getting the job done. Ronnie says, can't wait for yours. Meaning the impeachment. Can't wait for Joe Biden's impeachment. All the opposing people in this world, if you and you are delusional enough to think you are doing, but just being a puppet is all you are. Chris Ann says, how the hell did anyone vote for this administration? We are going down the rabbit hole and may never be able to get out. God, please help us. It's true. Since he's taken office, it's just been one political fight after the next to undo all of the hard work that Trump and the Republican Party did over the last 4 years. Certainly doesn't really feel like America's being put first, especially when constitutional rights get thrown out the window. Look at our freedom of speech. Conservatives are being thrown off the platforms left, right, and center. Why are we being silenced? What do the Democrats have to hide? What are they so worried about? It's not just President Trump who's been kicked off. Mayor Rudy Giuliani, anybody who opposes the legitimacy of the election or questions it is being silenced. Surprised Ted Cruz even has an account still, who's been a great and phenomenal advocate. Elise Stefanik, Congresswoman in New York. Lauren Boebert, Congresswoman in Colorado. There's been a handful. Marjorie Greene Taylor, or Taylor Greene, stepped up. So there are a handful, Rand Paul, that have come forward. Republicans are starting to step up. We need them to keep fighting for our constitutional rights. So I'm glad to see that only 5 rhinos actually voted to move forward, and that the other 45 slammed the door shut to this entire impeachment hoax. Nothing's going to come from it. We're going to further divide the country. We're going to waste millions of dollars of taxpayers' money. And most importantly, our government isn't going to be able to move the country forward because they're going to be wrapped up in this BS for the next few months. So well done, Democrats. Once again, you've done a wonderful job at unifying the country for your own personal hatred towards former President Donald Trump. We'll see what the next few months unfold. We'll see how many Democrats become furious over the fact that Trump will get acquitted. But we'll deal with it then. Hopefully, they won't burn too many buildings or cities down, and we'll have some America left when all the destruction is said and done. Thank you guys so much for joining the show today. You've been watching You Made It Political with Matt Clark every day at 3 p.m. You have a wonderful rest of the day. We will see you tomorrow, same time. Have a great night.
Thanks for listening to You Made It Political with Matt Clark. Be sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the show, or leave us a review on iTunes. And if you like our show or want to know more, check out YouMadeItPolitical.com.